My adopted sister lied and said I got her pregnant. My whole family abandoned me 10 years later, she confessed. Hi, I'm Nate, 31, and when I was 17, my adopted sister accused me of something so vile it cost me everything: my family, my girlfriend, my future. 10 years later, the truth finally came out. She confessed. They came crying to my door. I didn't answer. Let me take you back. I was that quiet, dependable kid. The one who fixed the squeaky door before anyone asked, who did the dishes without being told. My parents adopted my sister, Amber, when she was 9. She'd been through some rough stuff, bounced around in foster care, and when she arrived, I was the first to really take her under my wing. I taught her how to ride a bike, helped her with math, even defended her when kids whispered crap behind her back. But at 17, one sentence from her detonated my life like a landmine. It was a normal Sunday dinner. My dad grilled, my mom made her famous baked mac, the whole extended family was over. I was messing with the Bluetooth speaker, scrolling for a playlist, when Amber stood up. Her hands were shaking, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. I thought she was about to say something about school or a fight with a friend. But then her voice cracked out a sentence I'll never forget. Nate forced me. I'm pregnant. The silence that hit after that was louder than any scream. For a second, I thought she meant someone else. Or maybe she was sick, hallucinating. I remember actually laughing just a little because my brain refused to process what she'd said. But then she looked directly at me, and I felt the floor drop out beneath me. Before I could even speak, my dad's fist caught me across the face. I remember the taste of blood before I hit the tile. My mom was shrieking. My uncle was already dialing the police. My brother stepped forward and spat near my shoe. You disgust me, he said. I said nothing. I couldn't speak. I was bleeding, humiliated, and confused beyond anything I'd ever known. They dragged me outside before the cops even arrived. I sat on the porch, shivering in my own skin, knowing in some twisted way this nightmare was just beginning. I wasn't even arrested. There wasn't enough evidence. But that didn't matter to my family. Their verdict was instant. Final. You're not our son anymore. My father told me, dead cold. I wasn't Nate anymore. I was a monster. A pariah. That night, my girlfriend called me in tears. I love you, she whispered. But I can't be with someone my parents think belongs in jail. Then she hung up. That was the last time I heard her voice. And me? I vanished. Just a duffel bag, a car with half a tank, and the gut-deep certainty that I was completely alone. The night I disappeared, I didn't even know where I was going. I just drove. No map, no plan. Just out. I ended up in a town called Briar Hollow. Population, no one who gave a damn about me. Which, at the time, was perfect. I slept in my car behind a closed-down hardware store. I lived off gas station muffins and stale vending machine pretzels. 3 days in, I saw a help-wanted sign taped to the window of a rundown diner called Ethel's. The guy behind the counter looked like a lumberjack who'd lost a fight with a deep fryer, arms like tree trunks, hair like steel wool, eyes that scanned you like an X-ray. You ever wash dishes? He asked. No, I said. But I can learn. You hungry? I nodded, and he slid me a plate of someone's half-eaten burger and cold fries like it was sacred. Eat. Then scrub. If you don't suck, we'll talk again tomorrow. That was Andy. The first person who didn't look at me like I was filth. He didn't ask where I came from. Didn't care what I'd done or not done. All he wanted was clean dishes and someone who showed up on time. I lived in the storage room above the diner, concrete floors, one lopsided cot, and a space heater that coughed more than it warmed. But it was shelter. It was mine. And for the first time since Amber's lie detonated my life, I could breathe without apology. Weeks went by. Then months. Andy became more than a boss. He was a lifeline disguised as a grump. He taught me how to fix a leaky pipe with nothing but duct tape and spite. He handed me a beat-up HVAC manual one night and said, "Learn this. You'll never starve." I did. I read that manual until the pages curled, then signed up for night classes at the community college an hour away. I'd work a 12-hour shift at the diner, then catch the last bus to class and sit there half asleep while my brain filled with condenser coils and airflow charts. One night after class, I opened my phone and typed in her name, Amber Williams. There she was. Smiling. Baby bump front and center. My mother standing beside her with a hand on her stomach, glowing like it was the second coming. My brother in the background, grinning like he hadn't spat on me as I bled out on the front lawn. The caption said, "So proud of our girl." I nearly threw the phone across the street. I wasn't a person to them anymore. I was a footnote. A threat. A lie they'd rather believe than the truth they'd have to face. And that's when I changed my name. Legally. I became Nate Whitman. A ghost with a new identity, a new purpose, and zero ties to the people who buried me. I didn't need them anymore. I would build a life so strong they'd hear about it through whispers and headlines and know they weren't welcome in it. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday. I was under a house literally fixing an ancient HVAC unit that sounded like it was powered by rage and dead raccoons, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me swipe. "This Nate Whitman?" a woman's voice asked. "Who's asking?" "My name's Detective Keller. I'm with the county sheriff's department. I need to speak to you about a case involving a Ms. Amber Williams." Everything in me went cold. I slid out from under the house, covered in dust and cobwebs, heart already sprinting. "What kind of case?" "She's been arrested." I sat on the grass, breath stuck somewhere between disbelief and déjà vu. "What for?" "False accusations. Fraud. Obstruction." And then the words that shattered 10 years of silence. "She's confessed to lying about you." I didn't even realize I was crying until dirt turned to mud under my palms. "She said you never touched her? That the real father was someone named Corey Nolan, a local dealer who vanished after she got pregnant." I swallowed hard. Detective Keller continued, calm but firm. "I know this doesn't undo what happened. But we're updating the original report. We'd like you to come in and make a statement." I hung up without saying much. Drove back to the diner in a fog. Andy took one look at me and asked if someone died. I told him. Someone should have. That night I sat on the roof above the diner with a beer and my old duffel bag, the one I carried when I left home. Inside were pieces of the person I used to be. A high school ID. A photo of me and my girlfriend at senior prom. A folded paper with my dad's handwriting, "Proud of you, kid." I lit the ID on fire. Watched it burn to ash in an old coffee can. The next day, I gave my statement. I told the truth. Calm. Unshaking. They wrote it down like it mattered. Like I hadn't screamed it into the void 10 years ago and gotten silence back. A week later, I got another call. It was my brother. "Nate," he said. We heard. Amber told them everything. We didn't know, man. We didn't." I hung up. The next day, they showed up. My parents. My brother. All standing outside my shop, clutching each other like some broken Christmas card. Tears. Apologies. Desperation. But I didn't open the door. Not because I was angry. Because I finally understood the difference between grief and guilt. They were grieving the son they threw away. I was just living without them. They came back the next day. This time with a casserole dish and expressions rehearsed in the mirror. My mom wore the same blouse she had on the day I graduated high school, the one she cried in because I was the first in the family to get honors. Except now, her tears weren't proud. They were desperate. "Nate," she whispered, voice trembling. "Please. We need to talk." I didn't say a word. Just stood there in the doorway of my repair shop, arms crossed, watching my father, this once iron-spined man, stare at the sidewalk like it owed him something. He cleared his throat. "We believed her because we were scared." "No," I said. "You believed her because it was easier than believing me." Silence. Then my brother, Jason, the one who spit at my feet, the one who told me I didn't deserve air, he stepped forward and tried to smile like none of that happened. "You have no idea how messed up it's been since. Mom's sick half the time. Dad drinks more. I lost my wife." I blinked. "And?" He looked stunned, like the empathy was supposed to flow naturally now that his own life had cracks in it. "We're trying," my mom whispered, stepping forward. "We know we failed you. But we want to make things right. You can't. Let us explain. Please." I shook my head slowly. "You explained plenty. With your fists. With your silence. With the bags you left on the lawn." I saw the moment my father flinched. It was small, but it was real. They weren't here for me. They were here for themselves. For redemption. For the performance of guilt. I leaned against the doorframe. "There's a box under my bed," I said. Filled with every voicemail, every missed call, every photo of you all smiling at birthday parties for a kid who was never mine. You want to make it right? Burn your own pictures. Delete your own lies. My mom covered her mouth. Jason turned away. And my father, the man who raised me, who taught me how to swing a hammer and pull a transmission, finally looked me in the eye. I'm sorry, he said. I really am. I nodded once. I know. Then I closed the door in their faces. I didn't lock it out of spite. I locked it for peace. And for the first time since I was 17, I slept 8 hours straight. I didn't talk to anyone for 2 days after they showed up. Not Andy. Not my coworkers. I didn't even answer Rachel's texts, and she was the closest thing I'd had to a real relationship in 5 years. I just needed to breathe. I spent the weekend fixing things that didn't need fixing. Resealed the vents. Repainted a tool rack. Polished my socket wrenches like I was prepping them for a wedding. By Monday, I came back to myself. I opened the shop early. Brewed the cheap coffee that always tasted like burned regret. And sat down to finally draft something I hadn't touched since night school, a plan for my own HVAC company. Not a dream. Not a maybe someday. An actual blueprint, budget, equipment list, routes, marketing, logo. Whitman Heating and Air. Andy saw it on the counter that night and didn't say a word. He just reached into the till, pulled out $2,000 in cash, and slid it toward me. What's this? I asked. Seed money, he said. I didn't ask for. You didn't have to. That's Andy. Man of 12 words a week, and all of them worth hearing. 2 months later, I had a van. A toolbox that didn't rattle when I turned. One hired hand, a kid named Kevin with a beard too big for his chin and a work ethic that would put saints to shame. And we got to work. Not glamorous work. No viral videos. No sleek downtown offices. Just crawl spaces, busted coils, cracked motors, people crying with relief when the heat came back on. The kind of work that made me feel real. And while I rebuilt ducts and restored airflow, I rebuilt something else, too, my sense of self. I stopped checking Amber's name online. Stopped visiting the court records. Stopped waiting for a letter that said, "We destroyed you and we finally get it." Instead, I wrote my own letter. To myself. A simple sentence, over and over, "You don't owe anyone a chance to hurt you twice." That letter lives in my glove box. Folded. Faded. Sacred. 3 weeks after my business got its license, Rachel came by the shop. I'd left her on read for a month. She didn't yell. Didn't guilt trip. Just stood in the doorway with a bag of Chinese takeout and said, "Either we eat this, or I throw it at your face." We ate. And we didn't talk about the past. We talked about floors. Hardwood versus vinyl. What kind of dog we'd get if we moved in together. I said something about a big dumb mutt named Oscar. She said she wanted a cat named Mango. That night, she fell asleep on the couch with her head on my lap. And for the first time in 10 years, I let someone rest against me without flinching. Without thinking they'd turn around and ruin me. It came in a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name. Real name. Nate Whitman. Typed like a business letter. Inside was a single sheet. "Amber Williams requests to meet with you at Silver Hill Correctional Facility." I stared at it for 10 minutes straight. Then I threw it in the trash. Then I dug it back out. Then I set it on the workbench and ignored it for 2 weeks. It wasn't curiosity that got me. It was the silence. That quiet hum at the back of my skull that kept whispering, "You spent 10 years with your life in ruins because of one sentence. You should at least hear the one that tried to undo it." So I went. I didn't tell Rachel. I didn't prep a speech. I just drove. 2 hours on back roads that looked like memory lane if memory lane was lined with regret and barbed wire. The prison was bleak. Cinder blocks and cameras. The waiting room smelled like bleach and hopelessness. A guard led me down a hallway that echoed with every step. I felt like a ghost visiting the girl who killed me. Then she walked in. Amber looked small. Not the villain I'd built in my head. Not the trembling 16-year-old who weaponized her tears. Just a woman. Gaunt. Tired. Wearing state-issued gray and a face that had clearly forgotten how to smile. She sat down across from me, eyes flicking up like she couldn't decide if I was real. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. I didn't answer. She twisted her fingers together like she was trying to hold her hands from falling apart. "I know I have no right to ask you anything. But I need to say it. I leaned back, arms crossed. Say it. Her voice cracked. I lied. I lied because I was scared and pregnant and stupid and I didn't want to be alone. You weren't. I snapped. Until you made sure I was. She flinched like I'd hit her. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. I don't. I just wanted you to know that every night I see your face. That porch. The blood. The look in your eyes when Dad hit you. I relive it every time I close mine. Good, I said. Because I lived it every damn day. She started crying. Ugly crying. Not graceful, single tear down the cheek crying. Just snot and guilt and hiccups. There's one more thing, she said through the mess. My daughter. She still thinks you're her father. My stomach turned. She doesn't know. Mom said it would confuse her to change the story now. That it's better if she just believes what she's always believed. I went cold. She thinks I did it? She doesn't know who you are, Amber said quickly. But she's seen your picture. She asked once if you were her uncle. I couldn't. I stood. I came here to hear the truth, I said. Not get handed another lie I'm expected to carry. Nate, please. I leaned over the table. You ruined my life. You lit the match and left me to burn. You don't get to ask me for anything. Not answers. Not peace. Not absolution. She didn't reply. She just nodded, eyes swollen, mouth trembling. I hope every second of your sentence feels like a page from my past, I said. Then I walked out. The guard didn't say a word as he buzzed the door. Neither did I. Because silence, I'd learned, is a power all its own. When I got home from the prison, I didn't speak for the rest of the night. Rachel asked gently, was it worth it? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because I did. It wasn't about closure. It wasn't about peace. It was about seeing her in a place where she couldn't twist the story anymore. Where the truth lived in walls and bars and booking numbers. The next morning, something shifted. I woke up early. Showered. Put on a clean shirt I usually saved for quotes and inspections. And I pulled out the last thing I hadn't dealt with. My name. Legally, I was still Nate Whitman. But buried in a fireproof box in the back of my closet was my original ID, Nathaniel Carter. My birth name. The one I'd erased. I stared at it like a stranger's face. Then I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. Let's make it permanent, I said. A week later, the paperwork was filed. 3 weeks after that, Whitman Heating and Air became Carter HVAC Solutions. New logo. New business cards. Same grit. I didn't want to forget who I was anymore. I just wanted to own it. Name and all. And business? Business exploded. Word got around that I wasn't just the best in town, I was solid. The guy who never upsold old ladies, who showed up early, who fixed the thing that 3 other guys said was unfixable. I hired 2 more techs. Got a second van. Signed a contract with the school district for regular maintenance. That night, Rachel came home with a bottle of champagne and Edgar, our rescue mutt, wearing a party hat taped to his ears. We sat on the floor of our living room, surrounded by invoices and dog toys, and toasted the kind of success no one can measure with likes or headlines. You did it, she said, grinning. No, I said. We did. Then I pulled out a ring. Simple. No frills. Just a band that said, I finally know what love isn't. Rachel's eyes filled up, and she didn't even say yes. She just kissed me like we'd been married for years. We set the date for spring. Small backyard ceremony. No family invitations. Except one. My niece. Amber's daughter. I sent her a letter. Just 1 page. No bitterness. No backstory. Just the truth. I'm not who they said I was. But I'm someone worth knowing. Her reply came 2 weeks later. A handwritten note in pink ink with little stars around the border. I'd really like to meet you. Mom says I'm old enough to know the truth now. I'm sorry they lied. I think I'd like to have an uncle. I read it 3 times. Then I whispered out loud. Me too, kid. The wedding was everything the last 10 years hadn't been. Simple. Warm. Real. We had 30 guests, total friends, co-workers, Andy, of course. He wore a tie that looked like it had been through a war and gave a toast that started with, I hate speeches, and ended with him tearing up halfway through the word, proud. Rachel wore a cream-colored dress she found at a vintage shop. I wore the only suit I owned and didn't care that it was a little snug. Edgar, our dog, wore a bow tie and nearly ate half the cake before anyone noticed. And my niece Amber's daughter showed up with her grandmother. Not my mother. Her maternal grandma. A woman I'd never met who hugged me like she already knew everything. The girl looked so much like Amber it made my chest twist. But she smiled with her own shape. Her own heart. We spoke for 10 minutes under the oak tree after the ceremony. She told me she liked books. That she wanted to be a vet. That she didn't blame me for anything. I don't really understand all of it, she said. But I know liars. And you don't talk like one. I laughed, a real one. I hope you visit again, I told her. I hope you teach me how to use power tools, she replied, deadly serious. You're my kind of kid. She grinned. When she left that night, she hugged me the way a niece hugs an uncle, not an obligation, not a symbol. Just connection. Rachel watched from the porch, smiling like she'd seen something heal. Later, we sat on lawn chairs, holding hands, champagne warm in plastic cups. You ever think about going back? She asked. To them? I said. To any of it. I thought for a long minute. I used to. I used to rehearse the speech I'd give. I used to imagine making them beg. And now? Now I don't need them to say sorry. I just need them to stay gone. She nodded. The stars came out like applause. That night, I opened the drawer beside my bed. Inside were two things: the first set of tools I ever bought for myself, and a letter. The last one I wrote to my parents but never mailed. This time, I burned it. Not out of hate. But because I didn't need it anymore. They had their story. But I had mine. And mine came with light. With names spoken without shame. With a business I built, a love I earned, and a family that didn't come from obligation, but choice. They erased me once. But now? I was writing myself in permanent ink, bold strokes, and no more edits. It happened on a Tuesday. I was elbow deep in a furnace replacement, Rachel texting about groceries, Edgar asleep in the passenger seat of the van, snoring like a chainsaw. Life was ordinary. Peaceful. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again. And again. On the third ring, I answered, mostly out of irritation. Nate? My stomach turned. It was my father. I don't know if this is still your number. We've tried. Your brother, your mom. Silence. I didn't speak. I'm dying. His voice cracked. Pancreatic cancer. They say it's fast. I don't want anything. I swear. I want to see you before I go. Just once. Man to man. Not even as your father. Just as someone who knows he failed. He hung up. I stood there in the cold, holding a rusted vent pipe, heart somewhere between fury and numb. That night I didn't eat. I just sat on the floor of our living room, staring at the spot where I once cried myself sick, wondering why he never came looking. Rachel curled up beside me. You don't owe him anything, she whispered. And I knew she was right. But 3 days later, I drove to the hospice. Not for him. For me. He looked small. Gray. Nothing like the man who broke my nose in front of my cousin while Amber sobbed into Mom's arms. He smiled, weak. You came. I didn't come for you, I said, sitting. I came because I wanted to look you in the face and remember that I survived you. His eyes welled up. I was wrong. Yes, I said calmly. And you stayed wrong. For a decade. I know. You let her lie. You let me rot. He nodded. I know. Then he reached out. A slow, trembling hand. I didn't take it. Instead, I stood. I built a company. I built a home. I got engaged. Her name's Rachel. She knows everything and loves me anyway. His mouth opened, closed. I'm glad, he whispered. You don't get to be, I said. That's mine. I turned to go. He called out. Please tell me what I can do. I paused at the door. Die knowing you lost the best son you never bothered to know. I walked out without looking back. Back home, I held Rachel longer than usual. I scratched behind Edgar's ears. I opened my office drawer and pulled out the last remnant of my old life, a printed photo of my family from a decade ago. Smiling. Whole. Before Amber rewrote me into a monster. I lit a match. Watched it curl and darken and vanish. Then I pinned a new photo beside our wedding RSVP list. Me, Rachel, Edgar, and my niece holding a wrench the size of her forearm. Family. Not by blood. By truth. And love. And fire survived. This is where my story ends. Not with revenge. Not even justice. But with silence. The kind I earned. And this time, no one erases me. I decide who gets a seat at my table. And that table? It's full. Forever. And if they ever come knocking again, letters, voicemails, late-night guilt trips, I won't answer. Not out of spite. Not out of pain. But because I no longer need them to see me. I see myself. Fully. Clearly. I'm the man I became in the absence of their love. And I love that man. That's the real ending. Because healing isn't a reunion. It's the choice to keep walking. And I'm already miles ahead.